Good morning. Good morning. How is everyone today? It is so good to see each of you today and hear your voices and see your faces. My name is Barbara Guillory. I am a practitioner here, and I want to say welcome to each of you here in present and those that are online. We have a very large, dedicated, and committed cyber community, social community. So we want to reach out and just say hello to you all this morning as well. I want to read our mission statement here. We are a strong, when I say here, that's CSL Midtown. This is our vision statement. We are a strong, open, globally connected community centered on the clarity of principle. Through teaching, service, and practice, we create a safe and respectful environment that supports healthy spiritual growth. So we want to welcome you to our community. On the first Sundays, we do gather here in person. Throughout the month, we are online, and we do ask that you join us whenever you can. Your presence does make a difference. I also want to just say thank you to our volunteers. As you guys know, we are a volunteer organization, and I can tell you our volunteers, they are the best in the business. So the whole operation uh, is again based on our volunteers. We have Meyer and Judy. They make sure that our speakers are here. And today we have an awesome speaker, Reverend Cynthia Paulsen. And she's not really like a guest. We love her. We claim her. Yeah, you all have got to share her. And I'll share a little bit more about Reverend Cynthia. She will be talking about perfection is the goal. Can't wait to hear that. I love the way she takes a very complex idea and she breaks it down. And you're going to feel like, oh, you're talking to me, Reverend Cynthia? Yes. I love that about what it is that she does. Our existence is because of our members, you guys that are here. Um, Again, if it were not for your support, then we could not exist. So your continued support, I have to say, very strong support. We are so thankful for. We're so grateful for. Um, Vance has been around forever from day one, so he's around doing anything and everything. And guys, this is the kind of volunteers that you want. We have others as well. Sylvia, you're my girl. I just want to say thank you for all that you do. You show up, your presence, your energy, your prayers. Again, guys, this is what makes us a community. And so we genuinely do care about you, uh, who you are. We have volunteers, Rick, Tom. Again, everybody pitches in to make certain that everything goes like clockwork. So we've been able to do so. Lynn, you're the host with the most. Nobody sees Lynn. Lynn is always working and working and working. She lays out a feast for us every first Sunday. And guys, I can tell you, if you ever get a chance, you want to be here on the first Sunday. And Connie, I have not forgotten about you. Every organization needs a Connie. Connie, thank you. So just wanted to share that. So today we are talking about perfection isn't the goal. When I read Reverend Cynthia's topic, it reminded me of my first coming to the science of mind. So most of you know that I grew up as a Catholic, I went to Catholic school, and everything in the Catholic system must be perfect, is perfect. So as you live your life, you're always striving for this perfection. It's the thing they tell you, you're going to fit in, you're going to be better. This is going to do this for you. You're going to be this, you're going to be that. But all of us have had that experience of making that achievement, attaining the shiny objects, but still unfulfilled. Still, there's an emptiness there. There are unmet needs. So, those unmet needs, guys, begin to control our lives. And it is through the classes that I learned about the unmet needs, which were the attachments that I had in my life that said to me, hey, I need this, I need that. This is needed, that is needed. And again, the need says to you within, something is missing. But as I continue to take the classes and educate myself about my true existence, my true self, I learned there was nothing missing. I learned that in spirit, everything is whole and complete. And it is because of the classes here, I learned that the unmet needs were simply a perception I had created of myself. This self-image was one that was not whole, that was not complete, but one that needed something. One that needed this to be done, that to be done. Needs, needs, needs. This reminds me, when we were growing up, we would go for the summer to our grandmother. And we'd be watching the cartoons. And when she would come into the room, we were just scattered. And the reason being, she was going to need one of us to do something. We were going to have to sweep the porch. We're going to have to rake the leaves. We were going to have to clean something. We were going to have to do it was going to be, hey, you. So we would just clear the room and she would say, well, why y'all leave when I come in? But we had, as a child, understood the pattern, if you would. But of course, at the time, I just didn't fully understand. But that is the household in which we live. So through the classes and the teachings here, I learned about the source of love, the infinite source of love, the unlimited source of love, the universal source of love. And this has been my solution in addressing the unmet need of perfection. And I can tell you, this has led to peace of mind for me. So I challenge you to take a look and see for yourself what that solution is for you. And again, we all have different ways of addressing our own issues. And no one can say to you, hey, it's not you. Uh, we're the only ones that can make ourselves a victim. No one else does that for us. So just wanted to share that with you. I'd like to do the declaration of principle at this time. This is what we believe here.
I believe
I believe
in one God,
one absolute power and first cause to all things.
I believe that this power is perfect love
and creates out of a desire to express love.
I believe all thought is creative, and how I choose to think creates my personal experience.
I believe in the unity of all life
and the immortality of the individual soul,
forever unfolding.
I believe
in the eternal goodness
the eternal goodness of God,
the eternal loving kindness,
and the eternal givingness of God to all.
And so it is.
And so it is.
And so it is.
So, guys, I want to just say, if you've been here with us, we want you to remain here with us. Uh, we are looking for a permanent minister, and we want you all to be part of this process. So, we're asking that you let us know what that is that you would like to see in the minister. You can talk to any one of the practitioners that's here, our board members. Um, they have been doing a wonderful job and they continue to do so. But we want you to be part of where we're going simply because you have been part of us from the past to where we are now. And I got to say, it's been a nice journey. It's been a beautiful journey, wonderful journey. So let's continue in this way that we are doing. Rule, I just noticed you out there. Rule is one of our number one volunteers as well. You know, you always know something behind the scene that is the backbone of any organization. That is our rule. Thank you for what you do. So we want you guys to be part of it. So let us know what that looks like for you, what it is that you would like to see. And again, if you're ever in the area, please come and visit us on the first Sundays because we are always here. I don't have to be perfect. I am so glad, guys, that that is what they say. And that is a true statement. I don't have to be perfect. It just has to work. So our speaker today is Reverend Cynthia Paulsen. Um, she is an interfaith and religious science minister, a divine science spiritual practitioner, motivational speaker, and author. Her sermons and workshops are deeply rooted in New Thought principles, inspiring personal growth and transformation. She is the author of the Undoing the Knots, Reclaiming Our Good. She is currently working on her Doctorate of Divinity with Emerson Institute. Congratulations, lady. And writing a new book and is happy to be living in Brookings, Oregon. So from Brookings, Oregon, she's with us today. Please help me welcome Reverend Cynthia Paulsen.
Thank you so much, Barbara. So I think it's safe to say that I've won the contest for the guest speaker who's traveled the farthest, right? I'm very happy to be back and to see all my wonderful spiritual friends here. So, do you guys remember that movie that came out a few years ago, several years ago? It was called Miss Congeniality. It had Sandra Bullock in it. It was a comedy, real funny, and she played an undercover FBI agent. And she had to pretend to be a contestant in the Miss USA pageant, and because there was some kind of like bomb threat or something to the pageant. And there's a scene during the pageant part of the movie where William Shatner plays the host, and he asks one of the contestants, describe your perfect date. And the girl who answers is quite dingy, and she responds, that's a tough one. I'd have to say April 25th, because it's not too hot and it's not too cold, and all you need is a light jacket. And it's hilarious. It's my favorite part of the movie. Now, she clearly misunderstood the question, right? He was asking her to describe her perfect date as in, a social engagement with a potential romantic partner. What would be her perfect experience on a date? Now, if he had asked all 50 of those contestants that same question, he might have gotten 50 different answers. If I asked everyone here today and everyone watching at home online, we get a lot of different answers to the question, describe your perfect date. And, even if we changed up the question and instead said, describe your perfect home, we'd get different answers. If your perfect home is a sprawling plantation-style house in Hotlanta, Georgia, good for you. That's not my perfect home. It is hot here, real hot. My perfect home is a little cottage house that's about a mile from the ocean in Brookings, Oregon. Now I could ask, what's your perfect job? I'd get completely different answers probably from all of you. We all like to do different things. We're all good at different things. I made a video a couple weeks ago on social media about how our human brains all work differently. I had put together a piece of furniture and I had done it very wrong. And I was upset about that. And all I know is if it were my job to put furniture together for a living, I would be frustrated and probably cry a lot, and nobody could really use the furniture I made. That is not my perfect job. Being a minister, being a spiritual practitioner, that's more, giving sermons, writing books, that's more in alignment with my skill set, more of a perfect job for me. What if I asked you, what is your perfect life? Describe that for me. There are as many answers to an ideal perfect life as there are human beings in existence, right? Now, I'm sure by now you're sensing where I'm going with this notion of something being perfect. The idea of perfection is actually subjective from a human standpoint. It's based on what we think as individuals. So this leads me to the topic for today, perfectionism. Is perfection really the goal of life? The act of being perfect. We humans strive for perfection, don't we? Experiencing perfection, being perfect, doing something perfectly. Have you ever been told that you've done something perfectly? I got a story for you. So when I was a freshman in college, I was taking the required undergraduate English 101 writing class that everybody has to take. And we had all turned in our first 5-page essay assignment. And we came back to class, the next class, only to receive a stern lecture from our very disappointed professor. Apparently, we were a sad sack of abysmal writers in her mind. So she began aggressively handing back our essays. And all around me, I saw big red Fs and a D and the occasional C-. Everybody got their essay back, except for me. And the professor proceeded to tell the class that one student had fully understood the assignment and had written a perfect essay. And I just froze and stared at that empty desk in front of me as that woman proceeded to read my entire essay to the class. Now, you would think that this was a great honor that would make me feel so good and proud and accomplished, but in that situation, I was mortified. So teachers, don't ever do this. There is no faster way to make people hate you than to be labeled as perfect. Now, to be clear, I was not labeled as perfect, but in that particular moment in time, my work, my writing, that essay, was labeled perfect by that teacher. So why would these other students automatically not like me very much? I am delightful, right? There are ramifications of using the label perfect, of designating something or someone as perfect. And it has to do with judgment. In that instance, a judgment was made by that instructor and a label was given. Now, the ramification of doing this is that when we label something as perfect, by extension, that means we are automatically labeling something else as imperfect. So why did those other students naturally feel a dislike toward me? Because when my work was elevated and judged as perfect, their work was automatically degraded and judged as imperfect. And that doesn't feel good. And that is duality, right? The idea that there can ever be that which is perfect and that which is imperfect, That doesn't work for us. We don't do duality. We at Centers for Spiritual Living, who study science of mind, New Thought, we don't do duality. There can only be one. Within the realm of oneness, all is perfect. Now that sounds like incorrect grammar because all implies plural, but there's only one, and it's all. Everything, everyone, all is perfect simply by existing. So this spectrum of perfection and imperfection, that duality, that is made up in our minds. And even though we know that, we understand that from a spiritual perspective, we still try to be perfect. So I will have you know that I got an A+ on that essay. It was my first A+, and it was my last A+ that I ever received in my academic career. I felt a lot of pressure to be a perfect writer. That personal pressure is yet another drawback of us living our lives trying to be perfect, seeking perfection. There is only one direction that you can go after being labeled perfect, and it's down. When we experience a rare moment that we consider perfect or that someone else judges as perfect, something happens after that. You know what happens after that? The next moment. You turn the next essay in. And if you're too focused on perfectionism, you might miss out on the good parts of that next experience. The act of trying to be perfect, perfectionism, it narrows our focus to only what we perceive in our minds as ideal. And we end up disregarding the vast diversity of life's expressions, including our own imperfections. I was in college to learn things. I was not there to show up and have it all figured out already. So when we're too focused on trying to be perfect, we miss the wholeness of our experience, the learning and the growth that can occur. We miss the beauty of our imperfections. So speaking of imperfections, I'm going to go there. Let's talk about our physical bodies. Our physical looks, our flaws, our defects, our bodily imperfections. Society really plays along with this duality, categorizing us and pitting us against one another. Like that wonderful song by Karen Drucker said, the media seems to decide what is perfect. It says we should be young, tall, tan, and thin. I don't know about you, but no, I'm in trouble there. Now, I'm not going to, but I think I could ask every person in this room, what's your least favorite part of your body? What do you consider your worst imperfection or physical flaw? I hate to say it, but I think every one of us would have an answer. Have you ever compared yourself to actors or movie stars or models who are deemed perfect by the media and the entertainment industry? Or even just people even strangers? We do this. We see somebody that we think looks perfect and we compare ourselves to them. Why do we do that? It's literally fooling around with that duality stuff again. It doesn't make us feel good about ourselves. Maybe you've heard that quote that's attributed to Theodore Roosevelt that says, comparison is the thief of joy. I think we could also say perfectionism, trying to meet a standard that is impossible to meet, robs us of our joy. So what are we supposed to be doing instead of that? From a wholeness perspective, if we are living in the truth of our divine wholeness, we would love our imperfections. We would love all of ourselves, even the parts that we deem flawed and imperfect. Now, here's what's cool about that, is when we do the work, and make no mistake, it is work. But when we do the work to recognize and love our own imperfections, the natural consequence of that is that it helps us recognize and love the imperfections of others. That's deep. I'm going to say that again. When we recognize and love our own imperfections, we learn to recognize and love the imperfections of others. And doing that points us more in the direction of our oneness and our unity, the truth of our divine harmony. Now, unfortunately, though, comparison and perfectionism, they go hand in hand, and they are ingrained in so many aspects of our lives. You have to have a high standard that things are measured against. So here's an example. The Summer Olympics are coming up later this month. I mean, the best of the best, and that's all about comparison, right? You got to have those scores. And while I was researching this topic, I happened to read about Nadia Comaneci. She is the 14-year-old girl who at the 1976 Olympics was the first gymnast to receive not just a 10, but they call it a perfect 10 score, of course, in her event. Now, ironically, I don't know how many of you were around and actually saw that happen on TV, but the electronic scoreboard only had 3 digits in it. So it gave her a score of 1.00 instead of a 10.00. And there's a famous photo of her standing in front of her score of 1.00. The International Olympic Committee at the time thought 3 digits and the scoreboard would be sufficient because a score of 10.00 would not be possible. It would be perfect. And no one would be perfect in their eyes. Of course, they've subsequently had to change that for future Olympics. But Nadia's routine and her score are still the perfect standard that gymnasts try to meet and are compared to almost 50 years later, that perfect 10. We see comparison used a lot in our educational system. I know I've mentioned here before to you that I used to actually teach elementary school. You've got to have grades, and students have to meet standards. And the biggest area where comparison comes into play, believe it or not, is with special education. The way the school systems work with special needs, differently abled kids, is to provide services for them. Now, this is a very formal process that involves a lot of paperwork and a lot of meetings. Anybody who's been in an IEP meeting, which is, what does that stand for? Individualized Education Plan. Anybody who's been in one of those knows that there is so much assessment and data collection and comparison of the disabled child to some sort of norm. So in order to receive services which would benefit the child has to be judged as less than, deficient, below average, imperfect. And while it's great that there is the benefit of services, the drawback is that those assessment results, that judgment and label as imperfect on the paperwork, does not represent the whole child. That is truly comparison being the thief of joy. Ask any parent of a differently abled child. We have to celebrate the whole child, the whole person, the wholeness in ourselves. We have to celebrate and love our broken parts, our defects and imperfections. All of it. God, spirit, universe, source, insert your word of choice, created an infinite variety of life. And all of it is divine. All of it is natural. And all of it is perfect. Full stop. So let's talk more about that word perfect, because we hear it in this teaching a lot. We see it in divine science, which is the precursor to religious science and the science of mind. The divine science statement of being. It's only 4 sentences long. It's very short, and it is the foundation of the whole philosophy. And the word perfect appears in it 6 times. This is what the statement of being says. God is all, both visible and invisible. One presence, one mind, one power is all. This one that is all is perfect life, perfect love, and perfect substance. Man, and I'm going to edit that and say man and women, a human being, is the individualized expression of God and is ever one with this perfect life, perfect love, and perfect substance. That is a lot of perfection. So to me, it reads like a logic problem, an if-then statement. If God is perfect and I am one with God, then by extension, that means I am perfect. Okay, this is a lovely idea that I can get behind, so let's go deeper. The Science of Mind textbook tells us even more. Here's a fun fact for you. The word perfect or perfection appears in the Science of Mind over 80 times, often when Ernest Holmes was conveying the idea that we are spiritually perfect. I remember when I first discovered this teaching and started taking classes, I would hear that so much, that we are spiritually perfect. And I wanted to shout out, what the heck does that even mean? You know, it's such an abstract, big concept. One of my favorite quotes from the Science of Mind that touches on this is this one. The Spirit has already ordained that nature shall be perfect. It would be impossible for Spirit to ordain anything else, since in order to be at all, it must be perfect in its nature. Okay, nature shall be perfect. We are nature. We can't be anything but perfect. But if you're like me, sometimes my life does not look perfect or necessarily feel perfect. So how do we make sense of this? I have a little exercise I think that helps. So let's think in terms of nature. Think about a flower, okay? Not like a cut flower from a florist in a vase, but imagine that you're walking in your neighborhood and you come upon someone's yard and they have a lovely bush with a big blooming flower on it. Picture that in your mind, a beautiful, colorful flower, flourishing and vibrant. We might even be inclined to call it perfect. Remember, though, that before the flower is a flower, it begins as a tiny seed. It spends time as a stalk that shoots up out of the ground with some leaves that appear. The flower part of this natural process really is just something to be hoped for, right? A flower blooms in its perfection only when it is ready, and sometimes it never blooms. The perfect moment of the flower blooming comes and goes if it happens at all. We are like flowers. We are one with nature. We are nature. We are not just the perfect blooming part, but we are the wholeness of the plant bush, the wholeness of the entire growth process, the seed, the little stalk, the leaves, the blooms, if we're lucky to get enough to get moments where we bloom. It's not possible to celebrate the perfect beauty of a rose without recognizing all the growth that took place before it bloomed. We are the sum of our life experiences, the sum of all our flaws, our doubts, our mistakes, our setbacks, our failures, and our growth, our successes, our accomplishments, our victories, our miracles. All of it is perfect because we are nature, and Spirit ordained that nature shall be perfect. Now, it took me a lot of years of studying New Thought to come to this conclusion. Being spiritually perfect does not mean our life experience is perfect from a human perspective. Remember, that's how we started out today. Perfect according to whom? Who made that judgment? Who gave that label? That is the duality of perfect and imperfect. We are not promised a perfect human life in a perfect body. By whose standards, right? Or, with perfect relationships. According to whom, And a perfect job and a perfect home with a perfect bank account, How much money would that be, We're not promised any of that. We're promised that we are perfect. Our existence, our presence, our beingness is perfect through no effort of our own. And that is a big realization. Now, we can still strive for a perfect life, but it's not perfect according to human standards and judgment. It's perfect in the way Ernest Holmes discusses it, as in free from discord, free from problems, free from lack, loneliness, illness. That's a perfect life. And he tells us in the Science of Mind, our standard is one of perfection. We should be able to look at a wrong condition, one that we don't want, that we don't like, and we should look at that with the knowledge that we can change it. Yes, of course we can. And we can also love ourselves while working the principles to the best of our ability. I think of it as like simultaneously living in two worlds, you know. The Buddhist author Pema Chodron famously suggested that we have to be big and small at the same time. Divinely perfect, eternal, whole, a very big concept. And at the same time, humbly human. At times, small and imperfect, with faults, doubts, and insecurities. I don't look at that as duality. Big and small are just variations of the same thing, size. I think of my small humanness as fitting nicely inside my big divine perfection. Hope that makes sense. Perfectionism is a rich, deep topic. I want to leave you today with these words by the artist, writer, and performer Angie Sullins. This is called The Next Time. The next time you refuse to sing because you'll never fill a stadium, or decline the joy of dance for fear of looking ridiculous, or you resist risking new adventures because you're not entirely ready, or you dim your shine because you're not completely healed and whole. The next time you hold yourself suspect because you're not entirely qualified, just remember, a bird doesn't sing because it's talented. A bird sings because it has a song. The moon doesn't only shine when it's whole. It can show up with a single sliver of itself and still light an entire night sky. Show up, sing, shine. The world needs you as you are. That's the end of her words, but I'm going to add, the world needs you as you are, and what you are is perfect. Thank you so much, CSL Midtown, for having me.
Thank you, Reverend Cynthia. What an awesome talk. And we're all here in person, online, listening later, wherever you are at. We have the opportunity to bring these wonderful speakers to us every single Sunday. And that's thanks to your contributions to keep the center open and operating. And we appreciate that. On the screen, we'll do our affirmation of prosperity, but also you can donate at cslmidtown.org/donate or scan the QR code. It will take you right to the donation site where you can set up a one-time donation or an ongoing donation. And if you're here in the room, there's a basket in the back you can put contributions in as well. So if you would say with me our affirmation of prosperity. I live in a universe of abundance. As I freely and joyfully give, I join in the divine flow, and all that I share with life returns to me multiplied abundantly. And so it is. Do you want me to do some more announcements? You keep going. All right. I got this. All right. So, as Barbara said earlier, we thank all of our volunteers for supporting us in being here, being online, all that we do. It takes a team to make this all work. So we appreciate all of you for all you do. And with that, we've got people that we need to help us with the selection process, like Barbara said earlier. You can email if you're out of town. Those are especially the ones we need now. We've got the ones local. We need some more people out of town. We would like some more people out of town to come help us because you're important too. And it's providing what we can do with that. Afterwards, we're going to switch this around after the broadcast is over. I'm going to turn the camera around. We're going to do interactive Zoom. We'll put the Zoom people on the screen. Turn on your cameras so we can see you. We'd love to see your smiley faces. That'll take me about a minute to get that set up. So we'll flop that around and get that set up. But in the meantime, let's say our affirmation of life, and we'll exit the online service. So say this with me. I leave this place now knowing something better than I knew before. I go forth into the world with a heart full of love and a mind full of good sense. I look at the world in a greater way, knowing that I have within me everything I need to create the life I desire. I give thanks for this understanding, and I am grateful for the spirit of life that lives through me. And so it is.